He sat quietly in his luxurious apartment, the soft glow of the setting sun casting warm hues across the room. His sharp eyes scanned the eviction notice in his hands, his calm demeanor belying the storm brewing within. Anger simmered in his chest, but Jeremiah Walker wasn't one to act impulsively. At 50, he was a seasoned black businessman who had faced more challenges than most. This was just another hurdle, or so they thought. Jeremiah had seen tactics like this before. False accusations, baseless claims. This eviction notice was nothing new, but this time it was personal. He knew they were targeting him because of his race, trying to push him out of the upscale apartment complex. They underestimated him, thinking he would fold under pressure. What they didn't realize was that Jeremiah Walker wasn't just another tenant. His next move would leave them reeling. But let's start at the beginning. Jeremiah's apartment was a testament to his success. The sleek, modern decor reflected his meticulous attention to detail. The leather couch, perfectly molded to his form, was both a symbol of luxury and comfort. A dark oak coffee table sat in front of him, the eviction notice lying on it like a scarlet letter. At 50, Jeremiah's dark skin was flecked with silver at the temples, and his deep-set eyes hinted at decades of wisdom and resilience. His tailored suit fit his muscular build perfectly, a silent reminder of his years in the corporate world. This wasn't the first time someone had tried to knock him down. Jeremiah had climbed the ladder of success one determined step at a time, navigating a world that often underestimated him. And yet, here he was, facing another attempt to undermine him, not because of his finances, but because of his identity. The notice accused him of non-payment, a claim so false it would have been laughable if it wasn't so insulting. Jeremiah had ensured every detail of his finances was in perfect order. Every bill was paid on time, every document accounted for. This wasn't a mistake, it was a deliberate attack. As he lifted his coffee cup, letting the rich aroma fill his senses, Jeremiah's mind raced. He wasn't just angry, he was determined. This wasn't about money, it was about respect. It was about standing up to those who thought they could intimidate him. Jeremiah placed the cup down, his fingers lingering on the smooth surface of the table. This wasn't just a fight, it was a test. Meanwhile, downstairs in the building's front office, Paul Grant, the property manager, sat behind his desk with a smug expression. In his late 30s, Paul prided himself on his polished appearance and his supposed authority. His assistant, a young woman in her 20s, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "I've been waiting for this," Paul said, leaning back in his chair with a self-satisfied grin. "People like him never last in places like this. He's probably behind on payments, cutting corners somewhere. They always are." The assistant hesitated, her voice cautious. "But shouldn't we double-check the financial records? What if there's a mistake?" Paul waved her off dismissively. "There's no mistake. I know his type. Always looking for a handout, never taking responsibility. The eviction notice will shake him up. He'll cave, just like the others." Paul's arrogance filled the room, but what he didn't know was that Jeremiah had overheard every word. Upstairs, Jeremiah's sharp ears caught the conversation. Prejudice, assumptions, manipulation. He had seen it all before, but this time they had gone too far. With a quiet resolve, he straightened his back and adjusted his suit. This wasn't just about him, it was about standing against every unfair judgment people like Paul thought they could get away with. The next day, Jeremiah entered the conference room with an air of quiet authority. The glass panel walls reflected the buzz of the corporate world outside, but inside, the tension was palpable. Jeremiah's crisp gray suit fit perfectly, his polished shoes making no sound as he strode to the center of the room. Paul sat at the head of the table, his confidence evident in the smirk on his face. Behind him sat the building's legal team, armed with stacks of papers and thinly veiled arrogance. "Mr. Walker," Paul began, his tone smooth and dismissive. "Unfortunately, your failure to meet payment deadlines leaves us no choice but to ask you to vacate within the week." Jeremiah leaned forward slightly, his calm gaze fixed on Paul. He let the man finish before speaking, his voice steady and deliberate. "Interesting. Jeremiah said, placing a leather folder on the table. "I have here receipts for every payment I've made. My financial records are impeccable. There's no debt." Paul blinked, confusion flickering across his face. Jeremiah wasn't done. "But here's something more important," he continued, his voice dropping just enough to make the room fall silent. "You've just tried to evict the primary shareholder of this building's management corporation." The room froze. Paul's smirk vanished, replaced by a look of disbelief. Jeremiah opened the folder, revealing documents that confirmed his ownership of 55% of the building's shares. "I own this building," Jeremiah said, his voice firm, every brick, every corner. Paul's face turned pale as the weight of his mistake settled in. The legal team, usually so composed, exchanged panicked glances. Jeremiah sat back, his posture relaxed but commanding. The fallout was swift and dramatic. Word of the incident spread like wildfire. Tenants, many of whom had experienced similar intimidation, rallied behind Jeremiah. At a packed board meeting, Jeremiah stood at the front, addressing the crowd with calm authority. "For years, I've faced subtle racism and manipulation," he said, his voice steady. "But using falsified claims to push me out of my own property? That crosses the line. Effective immediately, this management team is out. I'm taking full control." The room erupted in cheers. Paul and his team shuffled out, their careers in ruins. Social media lit up with stories of Jeremiah's resilience and leadership, making him a symbol of justice and perseverance. Under Jeremiah's leadership, the building thrived. Transparent policies, fair practices, and a strong stand against discrimination brought the community together. Jeremiah became a local hero, a beacon of hope for change. Weeks later, Jeremiah sat in his apartment, a smile playing on his lips. In front of him wasn't an eviction notice, but a proposal for expanding affordable housing. Signing the document, Jeremiah knew his battle wasn't just a victory for himself, it was a step toward greater change. Don't miss inspiring stories like this. Subscribe to Unfolded Tales Explained and hit the bell icon to stay updated with more powerful narratives.